Why do some people leave a party feeling full, while others leave feeling completely hollowed out? Researcher Arnie Kan and colleagues formally documented what many people already felt: a measurable depletion following social interaction. Not shyness, not anxiety. A physiological cost that some nervous systems pay every single time they connect with other people. This isn't a personality flaw or a social preference. Neuroscience has confirmed that post-social depletion has real biological underpinnings, wired into how certain brains process the outside world. Every social interaction activates your nervous system. Your brain scans faces, interprets tone, monitors your own responses, and regulates emotion, all simultaneously. That's an enormous metabolic and cognitive load. Conceptual knowledge and cognitive control run at full capacity during social encounters. Your brain isn't passively receiving people. It's actively constructing meaning from every glance, pause, and word in real time. The sense of being a separate self isn't fixed. The brain assembles it moment by moment. In social settings, that assembly process runs at full speed. For some people, it's genuinely exhausting. So, why do some people gain energy from exactly the same situation? The same party, the same conversation, the same noise, and one person leaves buzzing while another needs 2 days alone to recover. The differentiating variable is emotional regulation. Some nervous systems return to baseline quickly after social stimulation. Others stay elevated long after the conversation ends, still processing, still recalibrating, burning fuel quietly in the background. A persistent misconception is that psychological phenomena like this can't be quantified. That assumption is wrong. In a 2012 study, Matthew Lieberman's lab at the University of Michigan measured cortisol spikes and sustained arousal in participants after social evaluation tasks. The physiological cost was concrete and trackable. But here's where it gets harder. Most behavioral science research on this topic is built on weird populations: Western, educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic samples. The social hangover may look entirely different across cultures we've barely studied. Observable behavior tells only part of the story. In a 2003 study by Sanjay Srivastava at the University of Oregon, participants rated as highly agreeable and socially skilled still showed elevated physiological arousal long after social interactions ended, performing warmth on the outside while their nervous systems ran a measurable deficit within. The erosion happens gradually. One lunch, one meeting, one phone call, each individually manageable. Stack them without unstructured recovery time, and the deficit compounds. By Friday evening, the tank is empty. Here's the real paradox. People who experience social hangovers often genuinely love the people in their lives. The cost isn't about disliking connection. It's about the neurochemistry of processing it, which runs hotter in some brains than others. The obvious answer seems to be just see fewer people. But John Cacioppo's decades of loneliness research at the University of Chicago found that chronic social withdrawal raises cortisol, disrupts sleep, and accelerates cognitive decline. Withdrawing entirely isn't the same as recovering wisely. Genuine recovery isn't simply the absence of people. It's the presence of low-demand, unstructured time. Time where your nervous system isn't required to perform, monitor, or regulate for anyone else's benefit. Emotional regulation, the ability to modulate your internal state after stimulation, is a core focus in modern psychology and neuroscience. And critically, it's not fixed. It can be developed, practiced, and refined over time. Cognitive and behavioral therapies give people practical frameworks for exactly this. Not to eliminate the cost of socializing, but to recognize when the deficit is building, before it becomes a collapse. Environmental contingencies shape the cost significantly. The same person depleted after a crowded networking event may feel energized after a one-on-one conversation in a quiet space. Context isn't incidental, it's the variable. Christina Maslach, whose burnout research at UC Berkeley shaped how organizations understand exhaustion, found that emotional overextension, giving more than you can recover, drives burnout more than workload volume does. Connection without recovery runs the same mechanism. Here's the counterintuitive part. Research on cortisol recovery shows the stress hormone can remain elevated for 40 to 60 minutes after a socially demanding encounter ends, meaning your nervous system is still inside the event long after you've physically left the room. Honoring the social hangover doesn't mean canceling your life. It means scheduling recovery the same way you schedule obligations, treating unstructured time not as laziness, but as a legitimate neurological need your brain is genuinely signaling. Behavior modification research shows that small environmental changes produce real shifts in outcome. Leaving a party 30 minutes earlier. Taking a solo walk before re-entering a shared space. These aren't antisocial acts. They're calibrated nervous system management. The social brain is still a social brain. Even for those who pay the highest cost, connection remains biologically necessary. The goal isn't less human contact, it's more intentional human contact that the nervous system can actually sustain. There's something quietly powerful about naming a pattern. When people understand that their depletion is a measurable neurochemical process, not a character weakness, the shame dissolves. And without shame, recovery becomes far more efficient. B.F. Skinner's stimulus control scheduling, arranging your environment to make desired behaviors easier and draining ones less automatic, is one of the most replicated tools in behavioral science. Applied here, it means building recovery windows into your week before the deficit arrives. Happiness research, including academic curricula like Yale's Psychology and the Good Life course, the most enrolled class in the university's history, consistently finds that sustainable well-being requires active inner work, not just the accumulation of positive experiences. Remember that moment outside the party door. Coat on, shoulders heavy, the laughter still audible behind the glass? That wasn't failure. That was a nervous system doing exactly what it was built to do: protect its own capacity to function. Elaine Aron's research on sensory processing sensitivity found that highly sensitive people show measurably greater activation in brain regions linked to awareness, empathy, and depth of processing. The social cost is real, and so is the heightened capacity that produces it. Consider the open plan office. A 2018 Harvard study by Ethan Bernstein found that removing physical barriers actually reduced face-to-face interaction by around 70%. Workers self-isolated to manage overstimulation. Design that ignores recovery needs doesn't produce connection. It produces avoidance. A 2021 study in social psychological and personality science found that people who reported fewer but more meaningful social interactions scored significantly higher on well-being measures than those with high social volume and low depth. Fewer relationships, more carefully chosen, consistently outperforms the alternative. This week, treat your recovery time as a scheduled commitment, not a reward you earn after doing enough, but a non-negotiable input your nervous system requires to keep showing up for the people you actually care about. If workplaces, schools, and social calendars were designed around the reality that recovery is a neurological requirement, not a personal indulgence, more people would stay connected longer, contribute more fully, and burn out far less. The science already supports it. The design just hasn't caught up yet.